Hello everyone and welcome to this second entry of our Elite Dungeon 3 guide. Today we're going to be talking about the Shadow Reef, the second part of this guide, that is Taraket, the Necromancer, and everything between the fight against the crassian leviathan and Taraket the Necromancer. If you don't know anything about Elite Dungeons 3, please, I recommend you watch the first part of this guide. I will skip over some things here because there's no need for us to go through the dungeon equipment since you already should have that. After all, you have gone through the first boss and also the location of the dungeon. Those things are explained in detail on the first video of this three-part guide, and the next part of this guide will focus on what happens after the second boss, Taraket the Necromancer, and all the way up to you being able to defeat the Ambassador and get your own sweet Eldritch crossbow. So, why do you want to kill Taraket? Why do you want to go do Elite Dungeons 3? Well, as usual, every boss has a pet. In Elite Dungeons, there's kind of a weird thing going on since only the last boss has a pet, so you can get the ambassador pet from the last boss, and you can get some blackstone hearts, blackstone arrows, lore books, onyx dust, serenic scales, hydrix tips, and finally you can get the eldritch crossbow, one incredibly good weapon, one incredibly good crossbow with a very awesome special attack. So it's a very good weapon. It's a very expensive one too. So you can get that weapon by defeating the ambassador, and that's the main appeal of the dungeon, going all the way to the end, defeat the ambassador, and being able to get your hands on an eldritch crossbow. If you are more lore based, you can get the two lore books, one from the crassian leviathan and one from taraket, and that's really easy to get. You can get them guaranteed during the first 100 kills, even in story mode. So that is also an option. So today we're going to be focusing on the second part of the dungeon leading up to Taraket the Necromancer. And Taraket the Necromancer is the second boss of the dungeon. It has 400,000 maximum life points. However, during the fight, you need to deal up to 600,000 life points or more, depending on how you work certain mechanics. It has 4 phases. Each time it reaches 200,000 life points, it will switch a phase. So the first one is at 200,000 life points. He will regain 100,000, and you need to lower him back to 200 to face him again. He has affinity stats of 55 for every style, so it's equally weak to ranged melee and magic. He is poisonable, stun immune, and he classifies as an undead. So you can use Salve Amulet, you can use Undead Slayer, Undead Perk, and Undead it's gonna be a very good consideration for this part of the dungeon. It's filled with undeads everywhere. So if you have Salve Amulet, if you have Undead Slayer perk, that's your cue to use it. Also, Taraket is weak to the Terrazor mold, so we're gonna be focusing on melee right now. And being as it is, Terrazor mold acts as a level 97 weapon against Taraket and absolutely destroys him. So, what are the minimum requirements? These are the minimum requirements I recommend for the entire dungeon. So I'm taking into account for this having, well, Crassian Leviathan before and Ambassador after. And I recommend 90 defense, 90 magic ranged or melee depending on the style you're using, 96 Herblord for overlords, 95 prayer and access to curses for turmoil and soul split, and to complete the quest Curse of the Blackstone. Curse of the Blackstone gives you 10% damage mitigation on all elite dungeons, so it's gonna be really helpful in here. So we're gonna talk right now about the dungeon. We're gonna skip the equipment and inventory since it's the same for the whole elite dungeon, and there's no need on going back. Just know that you want to bring weapon poison plus demon horn necklace to be able to restore prayer quickly, and a halberd weapon if you are meleeing. If you are ranging, you want to bring mechanized chinchompas. What you want to do is after you beat the crassian leviathan, you're gonna keep running, and at this part we can start ignoring a lot more of minions. So first of all, we want to kill the rangers, the scouts over here. As you can see, we ignore those two little crassians over there, and we go to the third one, the one that attacks from afar, and that will help us open the gates easier. You will receive a bit more of damage, but with high enough stats and armor, you can start ignoring it, and you will be cutting about 5 to 6 minutes per run, or maybe more by doing this. After killing that one, you want to go to the next two crassians, and here's where the interesting part begins. From now on, you want to attack the cloaked zealot, but make sure to kill all of the little crabs that surround him. All of the crassians that are around him will need to die. You can ignore the big ones, but you need to kill the small ones. After that's done, you want to kill the zombies. As usual, zombies must die. So you kill all of the zombies by alternating your area damage abilities, and then you can just walk through, go over there, and be sure to jump off the ramp. Now, jumping off the ramp, you want to kill the Ulfan Necromancer. These guys summon zombies and the two huge skeletons. And here's an interesting part. On the next part, you're gonna have two roads, one that goes to the right, one that goes to the left. It doesn't matter which one you choose. You will see a Ulfan Necromancer by the middle of the area. You want to kill that Ulfan Necromancer, and you can ignore everything else. You just want to kill one of the two. No need to kill both. There's one Ulfman on each side. You can just kill one, and that should be it. After killing it, you want to keep going north, and you're gonna see three armored skeletons. You kill those 3 armored skeletons, and the door to the north will open, and that's your cue to keep on moving. Again, if you want to stay, you can stay and kill every single minion. I recommend focusing on the Ulfman Necromancers first. Now, there's a checkpoint that unlocks over there, but for the next part, you want to keep going, and you want to hit the Ulfman Necromancers standing near the barrier. There are 4 Necromancers, so on your first runs, I suggest you kill them, and every time you kill a Necromancer, you want to go through the barrier, and there's gonna be a black stone artifact over there. So you click on it, and once it's done, the doors are open. Now, the next part is probably one of the hardest parts in the entire dungeon, if not the hardest thing before the bosses. This is a place where you're gonna start eating a lot of food. And as you can see from my inventory on the screen, I have a lot of food yet. I barely eaten to this point. I haven't banked since the Crassian Leviathan. And the way the bridge works is you wanna pray ranged, and you're gonna be constantly getting hit by range hits. So you're gonna ignore everything. And as you can see, we're getting hit real hard. And you wanna go over there and kill the 2 sea horrors and the Ulfman Necromancer as fast as you can. As you can see, I'm running fast through my food, because at this part you will be receiving tons and tons of damage. Once it's done, you want to move forward and walk to the west. This part is a bit like a maze, and if you go north or you go east, you will only reach dead ends that possibly are lured with mini bosses. So you can explore, you can go kill every single minion back there, but if you want to focus on the main bosses and on the main path, you want to go west right after the bridge. Also, once the bridge barrier is down, you can actually teleport out, and the archers on the bridge will disappear, allowing you to move through. However, we're gonna be teleporting soon, so I recommend keep going. If you have the food, you can turn on your scrimshaw, or you can do a lot of things to survive here. Right after the bridge, you want to kill the 3 guys by the door, and at the next part, you want to bladed dive diagonally, or you want to search diagonally to prevent the aggro from those 4 guys. As you saw, we just bladed dive, and it helped us a lot. And at the next barrier, you're gonna see a chest, and you want to kill 2 Ulfman Necromancers and 2 giant skeletons. Once that's done, you can teleport out, and all of the minions from that part will disappear. Once you teleport out, you'll be safe, and we're ready to go to Taraket. Now, Taraket. Oh wait, Taraket the Necromancer has a special equipment requirements. I recommend the same thing as usual, tier 90 weapons with tier 80 armor with the exception of melee. I mean, Masterwork is pretty easy to come by, so if you have Masterwork, use it. If not, Torva should be good enough. Gloves, Cinderbane gloves, as usual in Elite Dungeons, everything is poisonable, and the best ring you can muster. I recommend using Reverse Ring or Champion's Ring for melee, with exception of Laniakea's Spear. If you're using Laniakea's Spear as your secondary or halberd type weapon, you shouldn't use Reverse Ring, since the 75 accuracy of Laniakea's Spear with the buff accuracy from Reverse Ring will mess up your kill and you won't be able to hit almost anything. For the cape, you got your kill cape, and the necklace, the best necklace you can wear, either an Essence of Finality Amulet of Souls or a Salve Amulet E. As I said before, Target counts as an undead, so a Salve Amulet gives you a very nice boost, and almost everything in the fight is an undead, so that gives you an increase of DPS. And for this part, I heavily recommend the Scrimshaw of Vampirism. Taraket the Necromancer, done right, done with melee, with a Scrimshaw of Vampirism, can be done with barely no food. However, without the Scrimshaw of Vampirism, it can be a very painful, very slow kill. So, if you're not using a Scrimshaw of Vampirism, I recommend bringing a Jack, a tortoise, or another beast of burden filled with food, since you're gonna be receiving a lot of damage and you're not gonna be able to out heal it. So that's it for the equipment. Let's check inventory. For inventory, I use the same inventory I use for the Elite Dungeons run. I use the Excalibur, Elven Shard, Shield, Swap, everything needed for a combat kit. You know, Excalibur, Shield, Ancient Elven Ritual Shard, Prayer Pots, Overload, Ring of Vigor, Switch, Adrenaline, and all of those things that you must use with combat. I will upload a video shortly about what do you have in your combat kit. And you want a weapon with +1 range or mechanized chinchompas. There are some mechanics during the fight where you will be fighting a lot of enemies at the same time, over 30-40 enemies if you get distracted. So it will be very easy to deal a lot of area damage, and this is where the Scrimshaw of Vampirism and Aura of Vampirism come into play. With the Scrimshaw of Vampirism, the area damage you deal will be enough to sustain the damage you're taking. Without it, you're gonna be taking a serious amount of damage. So you want food and you want your lucky charms in case you want the extra profit. As you can see in my inventory, I have a Dragon Battle Axe. I use that to gain a damage buff at War's Retreat. It's not needed, but if you have it, it's a nice thing to learn. You get adrenaline from the crystals, use the Dragon Battle Axe special, refill your adrenaline, and go to the boss. And that way, during the next minute, you have a 10% extra damage, and that will help a lot. So, we're gonna talk now about the specials of Taraket the Necromancer, and the first special he does, and the first special we're gonna talk about, is the Rift of Undeath. He's gonna say, "Arise, my servants," and spawn a Rift of Undeath behind him. The Rift will not attack, however, it will spawn skeletons over and over and over again, and as you can see, it has a timer above it. And that timer actually, what that timer actually does is that if the timer runs out, you will be dealt by, I think it's 6,000 typeless damage. So as soon as he spawns the rift, just DPS the rift using area of effect abilities, and once the rift is dead, walk over it and use one more area of effect ability around you, and that should be enough to kill the skeletons. The skeletons attack with either range or melee, and they have 2000 life points, so they are pretty easy to kill, they are pretty easy to destroy, and it shouldn't be too much of a trouble as long as you're focused. The Rift of Undeath always appears in the middle of the arena, always appears in the exact same spot, so there are a couple of things to do when mitigating, and that is making sure you lure Taraket closer to it, so that when you are killing the rift, you can get some extra damage on Taraket. If Taraket is far away from the rift, don't worry, go to the rift, kill it, and then return to Taraket. It will make your kill safer than just ignoring the rift. The second special he does is called a Siphon, And in this special, he will basically just siphon the minions and heal himself up. So you're gonna see how he is about to kill the minions right now, how he's about to siphon from them, and that will heal him 4000 HP per minion, making the kill longer. So you want to kill the skeletons as much as you can. However, if the skeletons are far away, or you know you can have a very high amount of DPS, you can just ignore them and it will heal them for a bit, about 40k or something, but it should be pretty easy. Besides, most of the minions will die by the time he siphons. There will be only a couple of left. Now, the next special is one of the most tricky specials there is, and I called it Minions. When he reaches 200,000 life points, he will move to the east or west and summon one of two minions. To the west, he summons a minion called Corpse Carrier, and those minions are a pain. So he's gonna fly to the west, and he's gonna summon a Corpse Carrier. That minion in particular, what it does, it hits you with melee, it hits a bit hard, but every time he does something, he will keep spawning and spawning and spawning skeletons, and he can be alive for the rest of the fight. Actually, you can progress, you can ignore him, but I honestly recommend, and I will talk to it about when I play the strategy, of just using your berserk, your ultimate rotation, your best damage to deal with the corpse carrier as fast as you possibly can, because otherwise the amount of skeletons may be enough to overwhelm you, and just you won't be able to get out of there. Since there's no limit to the number of skeletons he spawns, you can have 100, 200, 300 skeletons attacking you at the same time, and that would make it really troublesome. On the east side, the minion that he summons is called the Bloated Monstrosity, and the Bloated Monstrosity just buffs his attacks. So you can either kill him, which I recommend for first kills and for safer kills, less food use. So for example, if you get used to doing it with a Jack or a Beast of Burden or a Tortoise, and you're switching up to a Reaper Demon or a Combat Familiar, you can start killing the Bloated Monstrosity again, just to make sure that you don't consume too much food. So the west minion summons skeletons like crazy, kill on sight. The east minion just buffs taraket, and it's usually ignored. The last mechanic of the fight, before passing to the fight itself, is the ghosts. He will say your efforts are meaningless or something like that, and raise up his hand as you see on the screen, and he will summon a line of ghosts. What you need to do is you need to walk through him while he summons a ghost, so that the ghosts face back from you, and the ghost will walk over to the other side of the arena, just dealing no damage. However, there are two things that you can do. After a while, when he lowers his hand, he will deal a melee hit, a high damaging melee hit. So you can actually use resonance on that high damage melee hit, as you see me doing right now on the screen, to get a 5000 heal, and that should be pretty good. So you can walk through him and just ignore every single piece of damage, or you can use resonance to get a very nice heal in case you need it. The ghosts deal around 2000 damage per tick, and they walk on the way they are facing all the way to the other side of the arena. So if you're ranging, if you're maging, just be careful with them and try to dodge them. This way of dealing with them is actually pretty easy, pretty good to do and to learn, because it will minimize the damage you get even if you're ranging or maging. I recommend at this point of the fight getting melee distance of him and dodging it one of these two ways, and it should help you preserve food and preserve a lot of resources. So next, we're gonna be showing you a full kill of Taraket the Necromancer, and I will be going through every single part of the mechanics. First of all, I wanna say something before we start. I'm gonna show you how to lure Taraket into a position. That position is better because it will be close enough to the rift that you can area damage it even with a 1-tier weapon. So if I don't remove my Terror Maul, or if I use Flurry with my Drygors, it will hit both the Rift and Taraket. And also by moving him to the west of the middle, since he is west, when he hits 2,000 life points, 200,000 life points, he will summon the corpse carrier first. So I make sure I get the corpse carrier first. That way it allows me to actually kill it faster. So as you can see, I have just used my Dragon Battle Axe spec, and I try to reach as fast as I can, and I'm gonna hit him. And after I hit him, I'm gonna run south back to the entrance. What I do is I deal some damage, I drop my blitz, and I search all the way south and wait a couple of ticks. He would walk then, and I can just barge back in or walk back in, and he will be standing there. As long as it's there, it's gonna be on melee distance of the Rift. So if you have it there, you can keep going with the kill, and you will be able to deal damage to the Rift and Taraket at the same time. This is only done at the beginning of the kill, and if you're ranging, you can be a bit more liberal and just attack him while being away from him. One thing to note is if we leave him there, once he reaches 200,000 life points, he will summon the Bloated Monstrosity first, thus making the kill a bit more difficult. And as you can see, I haven't used Berserk yet. I haven't used my damage boosting ultimate. I reserved the first damage boosting ultimate of the fight for the corpse carrier, and that's gonna be important since you want to kill him as fast as you can. So next, we're gonna be attacking the Rift. So we're gonna be killing the Rift that he spawned, trying to not face him. And after the Rift is dead, we're gonna be walking to the side of him and using the melee ability Kick. That way, he's one step to the west from the middle, and we can guarantee that the corpse carrier will spawn. One side note is that if you are not using melee, you can just stay on the entrance, attack him, and go back to the entrance, and he will move to that position easily. Or you can move to the east and use one of the horror abilities. So use either shock, horror, demoralize, or I don't remember the name of the ranged threshold. But you want to use one of the horror abilities, the ones you get for like 100k on the Grand Exchange, the stuns that move your opponent so that you can actually move him west. Walking behind him, below him, it's not as trustworthy as it sounds. So I found out the best ability to use is one of the stuns that actually move it. So Kick for melee, or one of the horror abilities for range or magic. Once he's there, you want to DPS, and you want to make him get him to 200,000 life points. So he will summon the corpse carrier. He will go there, and now you're gonna see me use my Berserk rotation on the corpse carrier to make sure he dies as fast as possible. And I'm ignoring the portal right now because I know I got the DPS enough to kill both the portal and the corpse carrier in time. And as you can see, I still leave like 10 skeletons back where the corpse carrier is, and those are the ones that he's gonna siphon. So he's gonna siphon the skeletons, and we're gonna keep going with the fight. Right now, I'm gonna talk about prayers, and the first thing to note is that he uses two types of attack styles. I'm missing a lot of prayer switches in this clip, but it's fine so far. So he's gonna use mainly magic, but he has a special in which he calls for Death Swiftness, and Death Swiftness will start spamming ranged hits. So you want to switch your prayer accordingly. Right now I was killing the Bloated Monstrosity, but the Rift spawned, so I focus on the Rift. Then I finish killing the Bloated Monstrosity since I want to preserve food. And as you can see, he's inside that Death Swiftness, that shadowy area around him, so he's using ranged, and that's when he starts maging. Right now we're reaching 200k after the two giants, so that means he's gonna start using the ghost special. And as you can see, we just walk through or use resonance, and he's gonna keep using his specials. Most of the time the Rift and the ghosts won't match up, so you can just deal with one and then with the other. Just be careful in case timing messes you up. And as you can see, you just keep DPSing him, praying range when he uses that swiftness, and once you start seeing the red balls, just pray mage. I lagged for a bit there and I actually almost died from the ghost, but it was pretty fine. So as you can see, as long as you can lure him, you won't need that much food, you won't need that much damage. Just make sure to place him right. Remember, you need to lure him to the south, near the rift, and one step to the west. Remember, pray magic most of the fight, pray ranged whenever he does that dead swiftness animation, and you should be pretty fine. Now, taraket is probably one of the hardest fights uh, in Elite Dungeons. I mean, it takes a lot to learn, but once you learn it and once you start doing successfully with low amounts of food, he becomes really easy. So it's a bit hard to learn, but it's really easy to pull it off once you're done, and you can do it quite fast, quite easy. You can do it really simple. Another thing to note is once he summons the minions, he won't go back all the way to the north. He will go back to the spot where you can actually AoE him and the portal, leaving you one space in the middle. And I recommend trying to stand in one space in the middle between him and the portal so that you can just DPS everything around you. So make sure to practice it. It's hard, it takes a bit to learn. Yes, it's not that simplified and it takes some concentration and some time to learn, but it will become really easy with time, and it will become like second nature. Honestly, it's one of the easiest boss. I was doing Ambassador with less food than taraket by a point, and now taraket is just too simple to me, so don't be discouraged. Keep trying and you will be able to get taraket down really easy. Again, the bloated monstrosity, the second minion, as you can see, he's not summoning skeletons, so since he doesn't summon skeletons, you can ignore him. However, you are looking to preserve food and get safer kills, albeit a bit slower kills, you can just kill him, and it will help you a lot during your kill times. So this was it for taraket. This was it for the taraket fight. I hope you guys understood, and I hope it helps you get your kill. As always, I'm Sarah Macaro, and see you next time.